Welcome, my friends, to a space where transformation begins within. If you're ready to understand the deeper truth of manifestation and finally release what's been holding your desires back, you're in the right place. Before we begin, I invite you to become a member of my channel, Neville Manifestation, where we explore the power of consciousness, assumption, and inner mastery to create the life you truly deserve. What if the very thing you've been chasing, the thing you've been overthinking, waiting for, and trying to force, has been waiting for one simple shift in you? What if it was never about trying harder, but about letting go of the need that's been pushing it away? Tonight, I invite you to explore a truth that feels almost backwards, but once understood, it changes everything. Because the moment you stop needing it is the moment it finally begins to find you. Good evening, my friends. Tonight, I want to share something that feels almost like a paradox, yet it holds incredible power once you truly understand it. It's one of those quiet truths that most people miss, not because it's hidden, but because it seems too simple to matter. And yet, when it finally settles into your awareness, it reshapes your entire experience of life. The truth is this: the moment you stop needing something, it starts coming toward you. The moment you loosen your grip, what you've been longing for begins to take shape. The moment you release the pressure of how and when it must happen, everything starts aligning in ways you couldn't have forced. This isn't about pretending you don't care. And it's not about acting indifferent just to trick the universe. It's much deeper than that. The state of needing, of feeling like you must have something in order to feel complete, is actually what keeps it out of reach. Let that really sink in. Most people move through life constantly checking, hoping, worrying, trying to control outcomes. They believe that the more they want something, the faster it will arrive. But when desire turns into desperation, it stops creating and starts suffocating. There is a clear and powerful difference between desire and desperation. True desire is natural and expansive. It feels alive, light, and open. It's the soul reaching toward a greater expression of itself. It doesn't feel heavy or anxious. It doesn't beg or chase. It simply moves forward with a quiet confidence. Desperation, on the other hand, is what happens when desire becomes mixed with fear. It comes from the belief that you are incomplete without that thing. It whispers, "I can't be okay until this happens." And the moment you believe that, your entire body reflects it. Your shoulders tense, your breath shortens, your mind races, and your heart begins chasing instead of trusting. But life doesn't respond to force. It doesn't bend to pressure. Life responds to the state you live in. It flows to you when you are open to receive it. If you move through the world with the feeling that you need something to be okay, that feeling becomes your dominant state. And because your state is always being reflected back to you, life mirrors that sense of lack. It's not punishing you or holding anything back. It's simply showing you what you are embodying. This is why so many people experience constant delays and frustrations. It's not because they are unlucky or because something is working against them. It's because they keep returning to the same inner state of not having. They keep reinforcing the idea that what they want is missing. And as long as that's the state they live in, their reality will continue to reflect it. If you look back at your own life, you'll see this pattern clearly. There have been times when you wanted something so badly that it consumed your thoughts. You kept checking for signs, overanalyzing every detail, trying to control how it would unfold. And the more you pushed, the more it seemed to slip away. Then there were other moments when things came into your life effortlessly. Opportunities appeared, connections formed, doors opened without struggle. And you might have wondered how it all happened so easily. The difference was never luck. It was always your state of being. This becomes especially clear in relationships. You may have experienced wanting someone's attention so deeply that it took over your mind. You watched everything they did, read into every word, replayed conversations, and waited for their response. The more you invested from a place of need, the more distant they seemed. But then something shifted. Maybe you got tired of chasing. Maybe you grew into a stronger version of yourself. Maybe you simply let go, not as a tactic, but because you were done holding on so tightly. And in that shift, something changed. The person who once felt distant started coming closer. The one who seemed unavailable reached out. The one who appeared uninterested suddenly showed attention. Not because you forced it, but because you changed your state. You moved from needing to simply being. And in that space, everything began to flow naturally towards you. People like to call this coincidence, but it isn't. It's simply your state of consciousness shifting. You are no longer sending out the signal of being incomplete. You are no longer silently asking, choose me, validate me, make me feel whole. Instead, you return to yourself, even if just for a moment. And that inner wholeness has a quiet power. It doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't try to convince. It naturally draws toward it everything that matches it. Now, let me clear up something important because this idea is often misunderstood. When I say stop needing the outcome, I'm not telling you to become cold or to give up on what you want. I'm not asking you to pretend you don't care or to push your desires down. That's not surrender, that's just another form of control. The ego is very clever. It can act detached on the surface while still being deeply attached underneath. It can say, I don't care, while secretly checking for signs every moment. But life doesn't respond to what you pretend to be. It responds to what you truly feel and embody. So what does this really mean? It means you can deeply want something and still feel at peace without it showing up yet. You can have a strong desire and still remain emotionally steady, not shaken by timing. You're no longer depending on the outer world to confirm your worth or your completeness. You still have vision, direction, and intention, but you're not emotionally controlled by what you see right now. You don't fall apart just because things haven't appeared yet. You stop treating delay like failure, and you stop letting circumstances decide how you feel. This is the heart of the law of assumption. You step into the feeling of already having what you want. You accept it within, and then you live your life without constantly needing proof. You don't carry your desire like a weight. You don't keep checking on it every few minutes as if it might disappear. Once you've planted it in your imagination, you let it be, because something is always happening, even when you can't see it. Think of it like planting a seed. The moment it goes into the soil, nothing seems to happen on the surface. But beneath the ground, everything is in motion. Roots are forming, growth is beginning. There's a silent process unfolding that you can't rush or force. There's a natural period where nothing is visible, yet everything is being prepared. Now imagine a gardener who understands this. He plants the seed, waters it, and trusts the process. He doesn't keep digging it up to check if it's growing. He knows that constant interference would destroy it. But then imagine another gardener who has no patience. He plants the same seed but keeps returning again and again, digging it up, checking for progress, worrying when he sees nothing. In doing so, he prevents the very growth he desires. This is exactly what most people do with their desires. They say they believe. They say they've imagined and assumed, but then they keep checking. They look at their bank balance, their phone, their relationships, their circumstances. Every time they check, they are quietly saying, it's still not here. And because consciousness reflects what you keep declaring, it continues to show you that absence. Checking is a form of lack. Watching for results is a form of lack. Constantly monitoring is a form of lack. And when that becomes your habit, it turns into your reality. So one of the most powerful things you can do is stop checking. When you feel the urge to look for proof, don't act on it. Just notice it and gently bring your attention back to your present moment. Go back to what's in front of you. The conversation, the work, the meal, the simple act of breathing. Return to the quiet knowing that something is already moving behind the scenes. Your role is not to force things into existence. Your role is to remain in the state of someone who knows it's already happening. There's another piece to understand here, because without it, you might mistake the waiting period for failure. The outer world always lags behind your inner shift. It reflects past states, old assumptions, previous beliefs. So when you change within, don't expect the world to instantly rearrange itself. If it hasn't changed yet, that doesn't mean nothing happened. It just means the visible world hasn't caught up to your new state. It's like placing an order at a restaurant. The food is being prepared, but it hasn't reached your table yet. That doesn't mean the order wasn't placed. It just means there's a process happening behind the scenes. And your job is not to rush into the kitchen demanding updates every few minutes. Your job is to sit calmly, knowing it's on the way. So can you stay in that calm certainty, even when the old reality is still in front of you? Can you feel secure, even if your bank account doesn't reflect it yet? Can you feel loved, even if someone hasn't shown it yet? Can you feel free, even if your current situation still looks limiting? Can you feel chosen before there's visible proof? This is where real transformation happens. Most people can't stay in that place. They feel confident for a moment, then they look at their circumstances and fall back into doubt. They start checking again. They start needing again. And in doing that, they undo the shift they had begun. Don't do that. Don't interrupt the process. Once you've planted the seed, leave it alone. Stay grounded in the inner knowing. Hold that state steadily, even when nothing on the outside seems to match yet, because eventually it has to match. That's the law. And this is the part many people resist, but it's also the key. Stay with the unseen truth long enough, and the visible world will have no choice but to follow. Here's something that can feel uncomfortable at first. Yet it has the power to set you completely free once you truly accept it. You are already okay, right here and right now. Not later. Not when something finally works out. Not when someone chooses you. Not when more money shows up. And not when the opportunity appears. Right now, in this moment, you are already whole. Already enough. Already complete. What you desire is not here to fix you or save you from being broken. It's not the foundation of your worth. It's simply an addition, something that enhances a life that already has value. And when you begin to understand this, not just intellectually, but deeply within yourself, something shifts. A sense of peace settles in. You stop depending on the future to make you feel okay. You stop delaying your happiness. Instead of saying, one day I'll feel complete, you begin to live from the quiet truth that you already are. When that happens, your desires change their role in your life. They are no longer something you cling to for validation. They become gifts, experiences to enjoy rather than proof of your worth. And in a way that almost feels surprising, when you no longer need them to complete you, they begin to come into your life more easily than before. There's a certain inner state that comes with this realization. It's calm, steady, and grounded. It's not frantic or desperate. It's not forced excitement pretending to be belief. It's a quiet confidence, a deep knowing that doesn't need to argue or convince anyone. It simply exists. You can think about what you want, and instead of feeling anxious or lacking, there's just a gentle recognition. Yes, this is mine. There's no panic, no chasing, no emotional collapse. And then you go on with your day. That's the state that creates real movement. Not because it's loud or dramatic, but because it feels complete. It's like knowing you've already crossed the bridge, and now you're just walking the final steps while everything else catches up. So here's something simple you can practice. The next time you notice yourself overthinking, checking constantly, worrying, or holding on too tightly, pause for a moment. Take a slow breath. Then ask yourself, if I knew for certain that what I want is already mine, what would relax in me right now? Pay attention to what happens. Maybe your shoulders drop. Maybe your jaw softens. Maybe your breathing becomes deeper. That feeling of ease is important. It's not giving up and it's not weakness. It's the feeling of already having what you desire. And you don't have to wait for proof to feel it. You can step into it now. Then return to your life. Do the ordinary things. Go about your day. Be present where you are. Let your desire exist quietly in the background without constantly digging it up to check on it. Trust it the same way you trust a seed growing underground. You don't keep pulling it out to see if it's working. You plant it and you allow it to grow. This is something many people misunderstand. Letting go doesn't mean giving up on what you want. It means you stop interfering with the process. Trust isn't passive. It's actually one of the most powerful states you can live in. It's choosing to believe that something is already unfolding, even when you can't yet see it. When you release your grip, you're not losing anything. You're creating space. You're allowing life to organize itself in ways you couldn't force. The people who truly understand this aren't the ones who try the hardest or push the most. They are the ones who have learned how to want something without feeling empty without it. They've learned how to trust without tension and how to let go without fear. They rest in the feeling that what they want is already done, and they allow the outside world to catch up in its own time. So tonight, step into that state. Stop over-monitoring everything. Stop trying to control every outcome. Not because you don't want good things, but because you've already accepted them within yourself. Let the seed be planted and then step back. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust the same intelligence that grows forests, opens flowers, and keeps the universe in motion. That same force knows how to bring your life together. And then just live. Be present. Enjoy what's in front of you. Feel at home within yourself. From that place of inner completeness, watch what begins to happen. Notice how things start to align without force. Notice how opportunities show up naturally, how connections form without effort, how doors open that you weren't even pushing on. Life begins to reflect what you once wanted so badly. But now, you're no longer desperate for it. And because of that, you can finally receive it. You can appreciate it. You can fully experience it. That's what exists on the other side of letting go. Not loss, not emptiness, but the natural unfolding of what was always yours, waiting for you to stop standing in the way. So ease your grip, let things be, and watch what happens next. It may surprise you. What makes this idea so powerful is that it flips the way most people have been taught to approach life. From a young age, we're conditioned to believe that effort, control, and constant focus are what bring results. And while action absolutely matters, there's a deeper layer most people overlook: the inner state behind the action. If you act while feeling incomplete, your actions tend to carry tension. You might overthink conversations, push too hard, or second guess yourself. Even if you're doing the right things on the outside, the energy underneath is tight and fearful. People can feel that, situations respond to it, and often it creates resistance instead of flow. On the other hand, when you act from a place of already feeling whole, your behavior naturally shifts. You still take action, but it feels lighter. You're more present, more confident, and less attached to immediate outcomes. You're not trying to force a specific result, you're allowing space for things to unfold. Ironically, this is when your actions become more effective. Think about it like holding something in your hand. If you grip it too tightly, your hand gets tired, tense, and rigid. But if you hold it gently, you still have it, and your hand stays relaxed. That's the difference between attachment and trust. One exhausts you, the other supports you. There's also an important psychological aspect to this. When your mind believes that something is missing, it constantly scans your environment for evidence of that lack. It notices what isn't working, what hasn't arrived yet, what could go wrong. This creates a loop where you keep reinforcing the feeling of not having. But when you begin to feel internally complete, your focus shifts. You're no longer searching for proof that something is missing. Instead, you start noticing opportunities, small wins, and unexpected openings. It's not that the world suddenly changes overnight. It's that your perception changes, and that alters how you interact with everything around you. This is also why letting go is often misunderstood. People hear it and assume it means giving up or becoming passive. In reality, it's the opposite. Letting go means releasing the emotional struggle around the outcome, not the desire itself. You can still want something deeply, but without the pressure that says, I need this to be okay. A helpful way to understand this is to separate intention from attachment. Intention is clear, focused, and calm. Attachment is heavy, urgent, and anxious. You can have a strong intention for something while remaining unattached to how or when it happens. That combination is incredibly powerful. Another layer to this is identity. When you constantly feel like you're trying to get something, you reinforce the identity of someone who doesn't have it yet. But when you shift into the feeling of already being the kind of person who has or experiences what you want, your choices begin to reflect that identity. For example, someone who feels secure in relationships behaves very differently from someone who feels they need constant validation. Someone who feels abundant approaches opportunities differently than someone who feels lack. The external results often follow the internal identity. This doesn't mean you ignore reality or pretend things don't matter. It means you stop tying your sense of self to outcomes. You become steady regardless of what's happening, and that steadiness creates a kind of magnetism. People trust it. Opportunities align. What this entire message is guiding you toward is a profound inner shift. One that has nothing to do with forcing outcomes and everything to do with reclaiming your natural state of wholeness. You were never meant to chase life as if it was something outside of you that needed to be captured or controlled. You were meant to experience it as a reflection of who you are being. The moment you release the belief that something outside of you holds the power to complete you, you step into a different way of living altogether. No longer are you waiting for validation, timing, or circumstances to align before allowing yourself peace. Instead, you become the source of that peace. You realize that your desires were never the problem. Your attachment to them as conditions for your happiness was. And as that attachment softens, something remarkable happens. You begin to move through life with a quiet confidence, no longer shaken by delays or appearances, no longer reacting to every absence as proof of failure. You trust more deeply, not because you've seen constant evidence, but because you've shifted into a state where evidence is no longer required to sustain your belief. In that space, you stop interrupting the process. You stop digging up the seed. You allow life to organize itself without your constant interference. And it is from this calm, grounded, unwavering state that true manifestation unfolds. Not as something forced, not as something chased, but as something that arrives naturally, almost effortlessly, as a reflection of the completeness you have already claimed within yourself. What once felt distant begins to feel inevitable. What once required struggle begins to flow. And you come to understand that letting go was never about losing your desire. It was about releasing the resistance that kept it away. This is the quiet mastery of creation. to desire fully, to trust deeply, and to remain at peace regardless. Knowing that what is yours is not something you must chase, but something that will meet you the moment you no longer stand in your own way.